Hi students, Logan Phillips here, and I am your professor. Hopefully you've been figuring this out over our course. We are now going to start jumping into the Microsoft Access environment, which means we're going to be dealing with database management systems. Now, Microsoft Access is a DBMS, a database management system in itself. Now, out of all the database management systems that exist, or all the DBMSs that exist, Microsoft Access is actually one of the least powerful. Typically, once you get into industry, most people have them custom made for them. So you may or may not see this particular software suite in your real life, but the principles, the background, the basis of the Microsoft Access environment does formulate all of the bigger, more powerful database management systems out there, including your SAP systems. I think it's called MS. I forget what Microsoft's bigger version is. So the basics of querying, tables and logic and all these type of things we're going to do inside the MS Access environment are the same processes that you do if you're going to be in industry working with databases. And it really does form the very basics of a lot of different career paths and a lot of different office support systems. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our SimNet environment, and I'm going to be working with Google or the guided projects. And so let's go ahead and open up SimNet, and I'm going to come down on the left-hand side to my projects, and I'm going to choose the Microsoft Access Guided Project 1. So let's go ahead and find it. We've got Excel, Word, Excel, Access. Here we go. You can see here we got Guided Project 1-2 Microsoft Access. Now we're going to be doing a few different files here. We have our instruction file, which we've been using repeatedly. Now notice that the instruction files are only for the for the Microsoft PC software. That's because Microsoft Access does not exist inside the Apple computer systems. So if you're doing your database management systems, you're going to have to use a PC. If you are a student using the Apple products, all of our computers here at TCC have the MS Access installed. You can use Access 2013 or 2016. I would strongly encourage you to use MS Access 2016 because every version of MS Access has gotten substantially better from the previous versions. And some of those early versions were, let's just say, not particularly good. Now you can see here on the left side we have a little bit of different file here as well. We have a resource file. So we're going to get our instruction file, we're going to download our start file, but we also must download our resource file. So let's go ahead and get these all downloaded and started up. So I'm going to open up my instructions, I'm going to open up my database, and I'm going to open up that zip file. Now, let's go ahead and minimize this. First thing we're going to see is our database. Now, out of all the application softwares that we use, Microsoft Access is the one that is most prone, or most commonly prone, to viruses. So if you've downloaded a database from online, there's a good chance that it might not be good for your system. So don't download databases that you don't know and trust. Now, it also came with a zip file, which is our resource file, with this members data file -01, which is a Microsoft Excel file. Excel and Access work extremely well together. The data that you have in Excel can be imported very easily. Now for this, the very first step I really need to do is actually pull this out of my zip file and just throw it on my desktop. Now I'm going to do that because I don't like working from a zip file, one, and two, it tends to cause all kinds of problems. So I'm going to have just that members data file sitting on my desktop waiting for me to use it. And when I'm ready, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to enable content. Now what you see on the left hand side and in this Access database starting off with is it's blank. There's absolutely nothing in it. We're going to be building a database from the very basis of scratch. Now the reason you downloaded a completely blank data file is because all of our data files are downloaded and signed digitally to each individual student. So if you just started a file from scratch and tried to upload it, it would have kicked out an error and not allowed you to upload it. So you have to download that blank database from scratch from that system. Now, for whatever reason, I didn't find my instruction file, so let's go ahead and open that up again. And here we go. You can see here we're going to do guided project. We have a couple skills covered in this. We're going to create a table. We're going to edit the default primary key. We're going to add some new fields to our table. We're going to edit the stuff in data sheet view and properties. We're going to save our tables. We're going to enter our records. We're going to change our layouts, make things look a little differently. We're going to import those records, which is we're going to import those from Microsoft Excel. So that's why we got that Excel sheet. Then we're going to sort the data and we're going to filter the data. Now, we're going to have some new language here inside Microsoft Access that you haven't been dealing with before. Now, the very first thing you should be seeing here is we're still laid out pretty much the same. We still have a ribbon, we still have our tabs going across the entire top of the screen. Home tab, create tab, we have our backstage view just like normal, but we have some new pieces here that didn't exist before. Now, the backstage view now has a compact and repair and an encrypt with password. Typically, your databases have a lot of safety, secure data that you're working with. So encrypting databases is something that you should be doing if you're working with your own data. Usernames, passwords, account numbers, and that kind of stuff. You don't want anyone to have access to it, so make sure you encrypt. Now, databases have a bad problem, and Microsoft Access is extremely bad about this and has been since its inception, or at least since I've been dealing with it, and that is the corrupting of database files. So compacting and repairing can keep your databases from corrupting and can recover some of those corrupt databases if you get to that point. So let's go back into our regular view. Excuse me. And now we're going to look at this instruction file. Now you know that I strongly encourage you to print out the instruction file and keep it with you. It makes working through this very easier. I'm on a split screen system here. So when my database file is what's being recorded, my instruction file is actually on my other screen, which is why you're not seeing it. So the very first step, we've downloaded our file. You can see that it should have your name at the top, Logan.Phillips, got a project database. I'm going to do a new step, and I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save this database onto my desktop. So Logan Phillips got a project 1-2. And we're going to go ahead and click on Enable Content a second time there. So anytime a database opens, it will ask if you want to enable content. That's because macros are extremely easy to put inside Access. You should be using macros when you're doing this type of stuff for real. And those macros can contain dangerous file systems. So make sure you enable content on trusted sources and don't enable content on untrusted places. All right, so we're on step 1 and step C, or step 1C, and we're going to click on the table button. We're going to create a tab and a tables group to create a brand new table. So we're going to start working with our data from very scratch. So we're going to come over here and we're going to go up to our create tab and we're going to create a table. We're going to go ahead and create a table. Now notice the screen looks a lot like Microsoft Excel. We have rows, we have columns, we have headers, but the controls between this stuff are a little bit different. Now, you can see here when I've created my table and my access object groups on the left-hand side, I now have a table 1. And you can see table 1, they match up. These are our two tables. Now, the reason that this is called a relationship database management system, sorry about that, quick phone call interrupted me, so let's figure out where I was at real quick. So we've created our table, and we're going to start modifying this table to contain all of our data. So it still works the same as Microsoft Excel. You move from left to right, top to bottom. You have columns, that go up and down, and you have rows that go left to right. But the difference here is your column headers at the top. And you can see here that we have different column headers that we choose the type. Now, if you remember in Microsoft Excel, you would put in your data, and then you would say this data is currency, and you'd choose a path. Here, you're going to make the whole column a certain currency or a certain type of data, and then enter in the information. Now, these are relational database management systems, which means each of our tables can interconnect into a relationship. So I might have a bunch of students with a mentor, and so my mentor might have a different table with all my mentor's information. So it might say mentor 1 is Logan Phillips and is at this address and this phone number. And Logan Phillips manages these 6 different students. Now, the reason we do this is because we can start getting in and asking questions of the data instead of just looking at it. So an Excel spreadsheet is a very flat 2D type of data environment. Now, you can see graphs and little pictures and that kind of stuff, but it's still just pretty much 2D. And Microsoft Access, or a database system, is a 3D environment where you can actually interact. You can ask it queries. And I'm going to give you a forewarning that I say the word query instead of the word quarry, because I grew up with a bit of a speech impediment, and that particular word is difficult for me. So I say it in my own manner because that's how I say it. So I know it's not pronounced correctly, but you'll have to bear with me and just sort of suck it up while I talk about this stuff and their queries. So the query is just asking a question of the data. And so we got to set this stuff up so that we can ask it good, deep, intuitive questions. So on this very first table, or on to step 2, we're going to edit the primary key. Now, a primary key is always a unique key. No two records can have the same primary key. If you're a student at TCC, it's like your T number. Now, a T number is assigned to you. No one at TCC has a T number that's the same as the one you have, because that makes you unique. Now, there might be 6 or 7 Logan Phillipses in the world, but there is only one of me. So my primary key would be, for like the real world, my social security number. For here, my primary key might be my T number or some other identifier that I've chosen that is unique to the individuals. So we're going to double click on this ID field first, and we're going to change this name. So let's go ahead and double click with the left hand button, and we're going to change this from ID to member ID. And we're going to press our enter key. Now you can see here, we've now changed the header to this. This is our primary key column. These will all be unique information. And we're going to add to the right, and we're going to put in a short field. So you can see here I've clicked on the right hand side, and I'm going to choose a short field, or short text, I'm sorry. And I'm going to change the name of this column to first name. And make sure that you put the correct spelling, uppercase F, uppercase N, no spaces. You cannot have spaces. So if you kick on a space, it's going to give you an error. Don't mess with that space. We're going to go to the next column. We're going to choose a short text again, and we're going to put in last name. Remember, no spaces. All right, so with these 3 information fields, member ID, first name, and last name, we can start putting in a little bit more information. Now you can see in step 2G that we're going to do a few different columns here. We're going to add to it. So let's go ahead and keep on putting those in. So we got short text, address. We have short text, and we have city, short text state, short text zip code, and then we have hyperlink, and this is going to be an email address. Now the reason we used a hyperlink instead of a short text, even though it's a string of letters, is because we'll be able to click on these hyperlinks and email directly from our Outlook client if we're using this. So it makes it interactive. Now we're going to do short text again and cell phone number. So short text and cell, make sure you put everything in correct, phone number. Now you can see here that there's another column still here. It still has a header that says click to add. That column isn't actually there. It just gives you a space for you to put information in. Now, unlike a lot of the other systems, sometimes Access saves automatically, sometimes it doesn't. So we're going to hit our Control and S button, and we're going to save this table. So in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, when we hit Control S, it saved the entire realm, everything we were working on. Here, when we hit Control S, it saves only the piece inside the database that we're working on. So we're going to name this the Members Table, and we're going to hit OK. Now you can see once I've named it members, my tab up top changed, and my access pane on the left-hand side also changed to members. So we have updating information. Okay, let's go ahead and go into step 3, and we're going to start editing some of these property fields. So we're going to click on the member ID field name, and we're going to click on the name and caption button. So let's go ahead and click on here. What you can see here is on your ribbon, we have a table tools because we're inside of our table. We have a field tab, and in the properties group, we have a name and caption button. So here we have a name of member ID. Our caption is going to be member ID, but with that space. And we're going to hit a description. Okay, no description in here. So we're going to leave our description clear, but we're going to put a caption of member ID and hit OK. And it looks like we're going to do in step 3E, we're going to do the first name, name and caption, and our caption is going to be first name with a space. Don't forget that space in the caption. Now you can see here what it's doing is it's actually giving me a space now inside my little headers. So it's a little bit more visually appealing to the user. But for the computer system cannot recognize those spaces when it's accessing and doing the relationship data management tools. So the reason we use the caption is so we can see it attractively. But we use the actual field name, or the actual name without a space, because that's what the computer is reading. So just remember name, computer, caption, human, and you should be good to go. Okay, next we're going to click OK, and we're going to type 20 in the field size property. So we're still in this first name group, and you can see here the field size is set at 255 characters, which if you ever use Twitter, you should know that number pretty well. It's the amount of characters you can use inside Twitter. So we're going to change this field size to 20. And the reason we're doing this is because we want people to not enter any extra information. 20 characters will normally take care of anyone's first name unless they have something really unique. But if you limit it, then it stops them from, say, entering their first name, last name, middle initial, address, all in one field. They can only enter 20 characters. So we've done the 20 character field size here for the first name. So let's go through and follow this list and modify them as needed. So we're going to do a few different captions, and we're going to do a few different field sizes. Now I'm in step 3J at this point. So let's go last name. We're going to do a name and caption. Put that space in, and we're going to do a field size of 25. Address, field size of 45, no caption necessary. City, we're going to do a field size of 25, no caption necessary. State, a field size of 2. So here's a perfect example of restricting your users so that you get the exact information that you're wanting. Now, if you put state here, I can answer that as Oklahoma, okay, Okla. I can put in lowercase o with, Oklahoma. I could put all kinds of different information in here. So I want to restrict it to, I want the 2-digit state. Now I would, if I was sending this out to somebody, I would put a notation on here that please enter a 2-digit state, but I'm going to also limit that so they can't put anything other than a 2-digit state here. Our zip code, we are going to put in a 5 digits, and we're also going to do this as a zip for the description or the caption. And make sure that's all uppercase. Our email address is going to be just email, and it's not uppercase. We're not going to restrict on any character limit on the email because who knows what people have put in on their email. Our cell phone, we're going to put it in a caption of just cell phone. And we're going to change it to the digits that we need. So a 12-digit. And so that's 918-595-2000. Yep, 10 digits plus whatever else you need. So 12-digit cell phone. And so we got all of our captions set. We have all of our spacing set. So we can now actually start doing some data. But first, let's go ahead and save this particular file. Now I'm going to come up to my left-hand side. I'm going to hit the Save button. Remember that the Save button here doesn't work for the entire database. It works only for what you're currently working on. So I hit Save is the same thing as hitting Control S, but it is just saving this members table. If you had 3 or 4 different tables open, Control S would open or save the one piece that you actually have opened. Okay, so on to step 4. We're going to click on the member records in the members table. We're going to click on the first name cell, and we're going to append some rows. So let's go up here to first name, and we're going to click on it, and we're going to put in the information that they have given us here. Geneva, and I'm going to move from left to right, and to do that I'm going to use my tab key. Now, you can also use your arrow keys if you want to move from left to right or up and down, but a tab key allows me to enter the data a lot faster. So I'm using my tab key. I'm putting in Lingle. I'm going to put in her address real quick. Remember to put the data in exactly as the instructions tell you. If you put a lowercase ca, it may count you off as not putting in the correct one. Lingle@gmail.com, 780-886-6625. Now you can see here I have my 10 digits, a phone number, and I have 2 dashes here to separate the phone number out. That's where I'm getting my 12 digits from. And you can see that the email address is actually a hyperlink. I can click on it and send her an email directly. If I click on it, it will actually open up my Outlook account, and now I can send her directly from Access an email. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. This is super helpful if you're doing mass emailings, if you're doing, you have a record of all your students and you send them out information. You can do a mass mailing straight from the Access database. Okay, so the very next thing, we're going to move back to the member ID field of the new record. So we're going to go one level down and to the far left side, and we're going to actually append some information, or we're going to type in the rest of this information as it's stated into the graphic. So we got Cheryl, Ryan, and Roy that need to be put in. Now, I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me type it in, but just remember, you type, you hit enter, or you type and you hit tab, and it moves you around, or your arrow keys will also move you around. So let me pause and I'll type this information in, then we'll start back again. Now, with all this information entered, one of the very first things I want to do is double check my data itself, making sure that I put in the information exactly like the table is telling me to. Because if you try to send a letter out to 705 First Street, but you're actually meant to put in 706, your letter's not going to get there. So your data must be accurate between the two. If you don't have them correct, my SimNet software will tag you as wrong on these type of steps. So double check your software. Now, with all this information entered in, it's not very well organized. So we're actually going to change some of the layout to this. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on this zip column. And with the zip column, we're going to right click it and we're going to open up a context menu. So let's go ahead and right click. You can see here we have a variety of different menu items that have happened here. And we're going to change this, its field width. So we're going to shrink it down, make it to where it looks just the same size as our data. So we're going to type in a field width of 7 here. So instead of 11.5 or 7.5, we're going to hit 7 and hit OK. You can see that shrunk it down to a little bit cleaner of the field width. Next, we're going to align the zip codes to the center of this particular column instead of to the left align. So we're going to come over to our Home tab, and we're going to choose our data and the text formatting, and we're going to choose center alignment. Next, we're going to click on that state column, and we're going to modify it a little bit, and we're going to choose our right click. We're going to auto fit. Let's see, it should be on the fields. All right, so to do this, we're going to place your pointer on the right border of the state field name, and we're going to double click the resize arrow real quick. So let's try to get this there. Sometimes you gotta get it just right. All right, so get your mouse just in the right place, dadgummit. There we go. So you can see when I've got my mouse in the correct place, I've highlighted the column, my mouse has turned to the resize handle, which is an arrow to the left and the right with a black bar in the middle. Now with this done, I should be able to double click it and it will cause it to auto fit the column width. So let's double click, there we go. And so it shrunk it down to the size of the biggest thing in this column, which is the word state. Next, we're going to center align this. So let's go Home tab, Text Formatting Group, and Center Align. And on step 5K, we're going to click on the Alternate Row Color drop-down list, which is on the Home tab, the Text Formatting Group. And you can see here on the right-hand side, If I hover my mouse, it's an alternating row color button. So we're going to alternate the row color with a blue-gray text to lighter 80%. So this is the fourth column, second row. 1, 2, 3, fourth column, second row. We have a blue-gray text to lighter 80%. So let's go ahead and click on that. And you can see here now our table has a nice alternating color scheme to it. It makes finding individual records a little bit easier, makes entering individual records a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and save this file. Let's go ahead and hit Control and S at the same time. Again, this is saving just the members table, nothing else. And we're going to close down this members table. If you have not hit your Control S or your table does not save, when you close it and open it back up, your data is not going to be there. So I would strongly suggest hit your Control S and also come up to the top left corner and hit your Save button. Now, there's two X's inside the Access database. There is the piece to close out whatever you're working on, and there's an X to close out the entire Access database. So we don't want to hit the big red X in the top right corner. We want to hit the smaller X that's a few inches down below it. And we're going to close just the members table. Now you can see here we're back to a blank screen, but my members table still exists in the left-hand side. I can open it up whenever I'm ready, but we are not open to anything right now. And you can also see that because we're not open up to anything, I can't save anything. So again, the save only works for items that are open and the items that are highlighted at that point. So we're on to step 6, and we're going to import data from Excel into the members table. So you remember that resource file we downloaded from SimNet a little bit earlier ago? Someone had spent time creating an Excel spreadsheet with all the information, and like I said, it's 2D, so we couldn't really get the information we wanted from it. So we're going to import, bring in all of that data that person created into this file that we already have going. So we're going to go ahead and click on the Excel button, which is an external data tab. So up top we have external data. We want to bring in, so import. If you're trying to send out, that's the export. And we're going to bring in from a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and find that spreadsheet. And this I put on my desktop, and it was called Logan Members Data File 01. There we go. Member Data File 01. First name, last name, all kinds of fun stuff here. Address, city, state, zip, phone number. So all the same fields we've already entered. So Members Data File -01, hit open. Now, on that, we're going to append the records to a current table. So we could have imported this data as a brand new table. It has everything we want, but we already created a few records already. So we don't want to get rid of those. We want to merge what we already created with this other table. So we're going to append this record to the table. We're going to choose the members table, and we're going to hit OK. Now you can see here, it's going to say, well, hey, your table here, your Excel spreadsheet has headers, and they match up. First name, last name, address, city, state, so on forth. So here's all of our data. Here's the headers. We're going to hit next. It's going to import to the table headers, and we're going to hit finish. And we're going to hit close. Now, we're not going to hit the save import steps because we're only doing this once. If you're going to be importing data for, like, say, 30 or 40 different sales managers and you're getting all their data, it's all the same, you can save all your different steps that you've done to modify everything to look the same into one go. So let's go ahead and just not ignore that. Don't click on the save import steps, and we're going to hit close. Now, when I open this members file back up, instead of the 2-3 that we had created, it's going to have everybody that we created. So let's go ahead and double click it in the navigation pane. Open that back up. All right. Double clicking is not working for me right now, so I'm going to right click and hit open. And you can see now records 1 through 14, everything's in here, so our record is still going okay. We are now on to step 7, and that was the open up the members tab. Again, you should be able to double click on it, but if you can't, just right click and click on open. And you can see it should have 14 records, starting with Geneva and ending with Randy. So our next step here is we're going to actually start modifying this data and organizing it a little bit so we can start really getting in and getting good information from it. Now, if you remember some of my lectures, an important distinction here between data and information is data is unorganized information. I can give you all kinds of numbers and addresses and phone numbers and people, and it will mean absolutely nothing to you. But if you can ask a question of the data and pull out just what you need, then that data has now been modified into information. So one of the very first ways we can start modifying into information is by organizing the data into a reasonable area. So we're going to click on the drop-down arrow next to the right of the word city. So let's go here. Next to city, we're going to hit our drop-down arrow, and we're going to sort this in alphabetical order going from A to Z. You now see that Auburn, Cameron Park, Fair Oaks, Folsom, Lincoln, our cities are organized from A to Z. Now, if that wasn't how you wanted to organize it, you want to keep it with members, you can actually unorganize it as well. Same drop-down menu, and all you got to do is to take off. Hold on one second. Sorry, there's someone vacuuming outside my door, and it's messing up my headphones a little bit. So one of the ways we can actually remove this sort as well is we can come up here on our Home tab, sort and filter group, and we can actually remove the sort, which puts all of our data right back to original. These are non-destructive methods of organizing data. So nothing changes, it doesn't get rid of anything, it just puts it into a way that you can answer your questions. So we're going to go up to our zip column next, and from the zip column we're going to hold and drag the pointer to move the zip column to the left of the last name. So zip column is not where we want it at this point. We will be moving it back, but we really don't want it here at this point. So I'm going to go in the middle of it, I'm going to left click and hold my mouse, and now I can move it around to wherever I want. And so I'm going to put it to the left of last name. And with it to the left of last name, I'm now going to organize this, and okay, we're going to send orders of the zip codes. So let's click on the zip code. Okay, so again, I apologize. I had to modify my microphone a little bit there to overcome some things that are happening outside the office. So we've organized by zip code, and what this has done is, we're going to organize by zip code because maybe we want to see where people are at. So I'm going to highlight both the zip code and the last name field, or the zip code field, and I'm going to do this by ascending order. So let's go up to our Home tab, Sort and Filter, and click on Ascending Order. So ascending order just starts at the smallest number and gets to the biggest. You can see 95602 to 95682. And so we can now organize this and see who was in different zip codes based on ascending order. Again, let's just go ahead and get rid of that sort. So you can sort by letter, you can sort by number, you can also start to do some more information sorting and organizing things a little bit more specifically. So these are very basic, rudimentary ways to organize your data. And if you've done Excel, it should feel pretty similar to you. So let's go ahead and move the zip code back, and we're going to click on it with our left mouse. We're going to click and hold, and we're going to put the zip column to the right of the state column. So right back to where it's supposed to be. So there we go. We have basic orders, basic data here. We've done a little bit of individual sort. So next we're going to start to filter. So sorting is organizing the data. Filtering is getting rid of anything that we don't want to see without actually deleting it all. So again, destructive versus non-destructive. The things I'm showing you how to do are non-destructive. So let's click on the 916 in the cell phone. So let's go up here and highlight 916. And member ID field 2. So we chose on Cheryl, we chose 916, and we highlighted the 916. Next we're going to do the selection button, which is on the Home tab. And in the Sort and Filter group, we're going to choose to click on the selection. And we're going to say begins with 916. You can see here now I have everyone's number that begins with 916, which means they might be all over the place, but a specific area code. I could have done the same thing for begins with or has this particular zip code, or if I was looking for everyone with the last name Wilson, I could have highlighted what information I'm wanting and then come up here to our Sort and Filter group and chosen Selection. Now you should be seeing about 7 members here. Let's go ahead and clear this off. So let's go here and toggle that filter straight back off. Next, on to step 10, we're going to start to filter this data sheet using text filters, so strings of information. So we're going to click on the drop-down arrow next to the email field name. And you can see you can do sorting and filtering from the home group, or you can right click on the radio button and go from there. And so we're looking for a certain person, certain email. We have a little bit of information, and I need to get to it without having all the information. So we can actually do a text filter that contains or begins with, and we can do a text filter that contains, what are we looking for here? Gmail. Okay. So we want only the people that have a Gmail address. So I didn't highlight individuals. I said, look through all this data and tell me who has a Gmail address. And I was able to pull this type of information up. All right, let's kill that off. Toggle that filter back out and get back to our regular data. Okay, let's do our drop down menu and clear filter from email. All right, so step 11, we're going to close this member table out. Let's go ahead and hit X. And no for the saving. We don't want to do any modifications to it. We just want to look at some information. So we've saved or didn't save it. We closed it out. And next on step 12, we're going to review the completed members table. So we've looked at how to sort, how to filter, how to do non-destructive methods of getting data into information from your tables. So next we're going to do a little bit of modifications to these. So we're going to double click the members table to view the table. Again, if double click doesn't work, which it seldom does for me for whatever reason, I'm going to right click and choose to open it back up. And you should notice that all your filters and sorted, because we didn't save it, are actually gone now. Nothing's there. And so we can start working with this data again. So let's go ahead and close that out. All right, so on step 13, we're going to start to add some database properties. Again, this exercise was just a very basic overview of the Access environment. But one of the things I want to do is I want to make this mine. Just like in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, I want the properties to point back at me. So let's go into our Backstage view using the File button. And from File, we're going to view or edit database properties if you're on Windows 2016. If you're on 2013, they may be just to the right. So let's go ahead here, and we're going to put in some different information. And we're going to choose to edit the database properties, which you see is what I've done. And we're going to type American River members into the title area. So American River members. We're going to type Taylor Mathos as the author. And ARCC as the company. And we're going to hit save and hit OK. So let's go ahead and OK. Next, we have to close the entire database down. So let's go ahead from our Backstage view. We're going to hit on the close. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to close the entire database, or it should. All right, it didn't. So let's go ahead and just hit the red X in the top right-hand corner. Now, Access can be a little finicky. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. Just remember to stay calm, that everything has multiple ways to do it. If something doesn't open when you double click, right click. If it doesn't close when you click on close, choose the X. So there's different ways you can do things if Access is acting a little odd. But do remember to save often, and whatever you're working on, either this project or the coming projects, always save your Access databases. All right, so let's go ahead and open up our SimNet environment and upload this database. I'm going to go ahead and find it here on my computer system. Let's see. It looks like there we go. Guided Project 1-2. It's the only database I have on my desktop. Makes it easy. Hit OK. And hopefully, as your instructor, I've made all good things and you get 100%. If I haven't, we'll fix what we did. So yes, we're ready to submit for grading. And fingers crossed, let's see what we got. 100%. So if you follow along, you're good to go. All right, guys, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. I'm here to help. I'll gladly answer anything you need. Remember that I do the guided projects. If you have a question on the independent or the emphasize, just ask and I'll answer those steps that you're struggling on. But I will not do a full video for the guided or the independent and the emphasized projects. All right, have a very fruitful day.